I'm Kytia.
And I'm Jarrell.
Welcome to our podcast where we talk about glowing through life
instead of just going through life.
It's a his and hers perspective about modern topics and hot button issues.
From Christians just like you.
Well, let's get into it.
We're gonna glow through it. My faith in God, He taught me how to do it.
My baby brother. Okay, let's do this line quickly. Yeah. So my baby brother is the cutest thing ever. I say he's an angel and everything. He does have clothes. He's not wearing a diaper right now. He's not a little baby naked. So just so you know, when he's diaper changing, he's a little sad, but we get through it. I'm like, oh Olivia, it's okay. So he can be calm, and he loves movies. The first time I tried it out was today. And bye. Thank you so much.
Hello and welcome to episode 41 of Glowing Through It. We have a new guest. I don't know, you probably can't even see his head. He's sleeping right now. Hopefully he stays sleeping throughout this. We're going to try to keep this around 30 minutes or so. So this is our first on-camera podcast. We said that when we came back with Glowing Through It, we would be on camera, and here we are. This is kind of a trial. This is a test. So if you're listening to this on Spotify or SoundCloud or something like that, hop on over to YouTube if you want to see facial expressions and see what we look like now. So anyways, let's get into the episode. I had some people ask me questions because when I posted on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook that Olivier is born now, I asked you guys if you had questions about pregnancy, labor, delivery. So I'm answering some of those in this video. We are, because both of us are here. It's not just me. We're answering questions.
All of us, even him.
Even Olivier, about his birth. He was born on November 10th at 9:20. I think it was 9:20 on the dot, a.m. And so it took a while to get him here. And we're just going to be going through all of that and touching on pregnancy, labor, delivery, and even our transition to becoming parents of 2 children and splitting our time between 2 little bodies. So first things first, we're talking a little bit about pregnancy. This will be kind of short because I did a whole blog series about my pregnancy at itsonlyreality.com. So I was trying to do every 2 weeks. I was so good about it up until like week 36 or something, or week 32. We went out of town for our anniversary, and it just like everything became all over the place and I couldn't keep up. And then I just was tired and doing a lot. So anyways, there's a couple things you missed, but not much. So this pregnancy was hard. I was hoping and praying that this one would be easier than my pregnancy with Petra, because my pregnancy with Petra was hard. Mainly the nausea and the vomiting consistently was hard, but definitely also the fatigue, just being so tired and basically just not feeling like myself, feeling like I'm in a stranger's body for 9 months. But at least around Petra's pregnancy, around the 6-month mark, I started to feel pretty normal again. And I was able to go out, do a bunch of stuff, get things done. We moved during her pregnancy and everything. And then this time around, I was just like, this is going to be supernatural good. It's going to be so great because I have a whole nother kid to take care of. And there's just so much going on in the world. I was like, Lord, please let this be great. And it was not. But the blessing is we're here, we're healthy, we're alive, we're blessed. God has provided everything that we needed. So the most important things that we're taking care of. But imagine having the stomach flu for 9 months, body aches, fatigue, nausea, throwing up, just for 9 months, a whole 9 months. Imagine that. And also everything being shut down, there being a lot of fear in the news and media. It was just all around, like, I think someone that I followed on social media was just basically saying how she was trying not to feel like this pregnancy, because she was pregnant too, was robbed from her. Like all the things that you want to happen during a pregnancy, all the normal stuff like seeing friends or going to the store and not having a mask on, or even just going out at all to the beach and stuff when that was closed. And so my desire and my effort was going a lot toward trying to stay positive with everything, despite everything, and keep focused on what God was doing. And that was like the only thing that kept me from basically just being sad and feeling just miserable and feeling like, why me? You know, because when you have hormones going on, it's already hard. You already kind of feel like, why me? Why is this not perfect? Why do I not feel like this? There's so much I wanted to do, a lot of photo shoots I wanted to do, a lot of things I wanted to do with the family. And it just didn't happen. But like I said, the most important things were always taken care of, and I tried to really focus on that because it could have been much worse, basically. And we were very well taken care of by the Lord throughout this whole time, and now He's here. So I want Jarrell as a husband who really, I mean, if you need someone to be there for you, like he is the guy, and it's just great to be married to someone like that you can trust, you can count on, and who's just like doesn't complain about like anything ever, even though he had to basically be everything for everybody during this time, especially when I was kind of bedridden, and we still have a whole another person, a daughter to take care of. We can't just be like, peace out, like you go somewhere while I lay in bed. So I want you to talk briefly about your experience as a father of a 6-year-old and also a wife who's kind of miserable for 9 months, and all the things you had on your plate, including work and all of that too.
Where do I find the time? So yeah, this was this right here is a blessing. So getting to this point, everything obviously is worth it. And I think just echoing some of the points that Tia had was, yes, this was a difficult pregnancy for like the entire family, and for all the reasons that she said. On my side of it, there was just so much this year, and I haven't like done a recap of the year and everything we've been through yet. I'll probably do something for that later on this month. But starting off in the beginning of the year, it just being like feeling in a place of like being displaced, and then pandemic hit like right after we found out we had this one on the way. So we already were in like a weird state of not knowing, so many question marks, and just feeling things like out of control. So from the beginning of that, it's like, well, with it affecting work, like my work was already affected with how on the lockdowns and everything, and the clients I have and all these different things. So it's like figuring that out, and then knowing that we had a baby coming in November, and then all these different things. It's like, for me, in my head, I'm very like problem solving, like this is the thing, so what do I do about it? Mm-hmm. And how do we resolve kind of these issues? And so that was like a lot in my head of figuring out all these different details and how to fix or address different things. So once we got to, I don't know, it's like a cascading effect of different things. So first of all, God really provided for, like, we didn't have lack in any kind of, like, we had everything that we needed provided, even in the face of adversity and the face of a pandemic and all these people, like all these companies being locked down and all these different things. Kind of like the story of with Joseph, is like there was so much happening, but God always provided for Joseph in wherever he was. And so we didn't have lack during that time. And I think that was like a relief. That was kind of how God kind of ushered us through this period. But even with that, the other side of the things were taking care of everybody. Like I had work to do. Mostly the work that I did shifted from clients to my own companies and the personal projects and stuff that I already had in in the oven, things that were already underway. So I was focused on that, but then balancing and juggling that with taking care of Tia, who was in bed a lot. And so feeling bad for her because I know she wanted to do more, but knowing that she couldn't, so I would have to take on certain responsibilities. And like if it was putting lemon wedges in water with ice, and then when the time when that didn't help with your nauseousness, and finding something else that would help with the nauseousness, and so you wouldn't throw up. Balancing that, and then taking care of Petra because she still had homeschooling, so doing the homeschooling and taking care of Tia, and then balancing that with work, and then all these other things. So that was kind of what the 9 months for me, like all of those things, kind of taking time away from here to go put it there, taking time here, and like just shifting all that stuff.
What would you say, though, as far as the pregnancy, was the hardest part? Like, was it seeing me be so miserable? Was it just adding 50 million more things to your plate? Was it the atmosphere of America and everything going on? Like, what was the hardest part?
I don't know. It's hard to pick a hardest of those, like the things that I had to face. I feel like probably how difficult it was on you physically. And I think I usually go to things that I can't help. Because if there's, like, America, whatever, like, not in terms of I don't care, but, like, in terms of it's going to be all right. Like, we're believers. We know that, like, we serve God first, and God's taking care of us. Wherever, if we're in America, if we're wherever, we want the best for our country. But I do believe that he's going to work out whatever situations that are going there. And ultimately, I can't really control what the governor makes someone do or what the media is saying about certain officials or whatever. So that was always with like a grain of salt, or like invested in like the government and America as much as I could. But work, I always knew like it's easy because that's what I deal with all the time. But then when someone's sick, I can't like take you out of that sickness or fix those kind of things. So that probably was the hardest, knowing that I can only do so much to help you through that. And I think that was probably the most difficult part.
Yeah. And I think just pregnancy overall, labor, delivery, everything, it's just like you feel so out of control because you can't really do much about it. Like believe me, I prayed a lot to just be like, Lord, like, fix it. Like, you can do it. Like, why won't you do it? And I want this type of pregnancy. I believe it can happen. So with that being said, feeling so helpless with it is just kind of like trying not to feel defeated, trying not to feel trapped in my own body, and just taking it day by day. That's really all I could do. And then towards the end, when I stopped blogging about stuff, I think it was just like this feeling that a lot of women get. You probably hear it a lot, where they're just like, yeah, by this week, you're over it. Like, you're like, pregnancy is cool. Like, it's amazing. People open the door for you. Like, it's awesome. But yeah, I'm done. Like, I'm done. Get this baby out of me. And so I had that feeling too, where you're just kind of like, I kept joking, probably every day with Jarrell, like, the first gift I'm giving myself after being pregnant is not being pregnant anymore. The first thing I'm gifting myself after being pregnant is not being nauseous. Like, just continuing to keep that kind of before me, because pregnancy isn't forever. It's not like 40 years later, oh, I've been pregnant for 40 years. Like, when is it over? You know, there's an infinite or a definite amount of time. So that was also good. Like, you're getting closer toward the goal. And so once you did get towards the end, though, I was just kind of like, you go from I'm over this to like, oh, labor is kind of any day now, but then it's like, it's any day now. Like, and I'm the type of person, I like to plan things. I like to know in advance. Like, if I knew the date he was going to be born, like, that would be great. I could anticipate it if I knew when my water was going to break. But it's just like, what if it breaks in the bed? What if my water breaks in the car? Like, and you have towels on the bed and towel in the car, and like trying to prepare as much as you can, but you just don't know how any of that's going to go. So moving on into labor and delivery. Labor, I had my 40-week appointment with my midwife, And we're just kind of like, okay, like not sure when things are going to happen. I didn't feel anything about like, oh, it's imminent, you know, this is happening, that's happening. It just felt like I'm still pregnant. I'm probably going to be pregnant, maybe even for another week. I don't know. So I had my appointment with my midwife. And by the end of that appointment, I started feeling like a pain in my side of my back, if that makes sense. Like it's on the back side, but it's also on the side, like on my right side only. And it was kind of uncomfortable. So even though we had planned to go to Target or do something, I was like, I need to go home. I need to lay down. So we get home and the pain just gets so bad, like to the point where I'm crying. And I was just like, I don't know what this is. Like, what is this pain? And I had been having Braxton Hicks, which are like practice contractions. I know what those feel like. And so those were happening while this pain was happening. I was like, what if this is labor? Like, I don't know. So I tell Jarrell to call the midwife and just be like, do you know what this is? Like, and can you help me? And so she told us some positions I could be in to relieve the pain. And that did help when I was in those positions. But then once it was over, I was just like, this is really hard. So we started timing contractions, and I think it was like every 5 minutes. Basically, they tell you there's a 5-1-1 rule where it's like 5 minutes apart, 1 minute long, and for an hour, like consistently. And one thing they'll tell you about baby number 2 is that, oh, it happened so fast. Like, you start labor and you better go to hospital because they just gonna fall out of you. So I had been talking to my midwife about that, and she's like, don't wait too long. You know, I've come to people's homes because I had a home birth. I've come to people's homes and the baby's half out, like, and they didn't know to call me sooner. So I'm just sitting here like, oh, this baby could come tonight, you know, all this stuff. So we contact her. The contractions are this far apart, and she's like, what would you like to do? Do you want me to come now? Do you want to wait a little bit? And I was just like, I don't know. So we're just like, let's set up the room, and then once that's done, we'll contact you and see what's going on. So he set up in our bedroom the tub, and you have to put plastic on the floor. You have a lot of towels. You have all this stuff going on. So once he was done setting up the room, moving furniture out of the way, getting it prepared, then we went upstairs, and I'm like still having consistent contractions. And then we're like, I guess you should come over. So she comes with her whole team, and they're just like, bam, bam, bam. We got suitcases full of like all this stuff. Like, where's this? Where's that? Where's, you know, the pots where we can boil water? Where's the hose? And so I was just like, oh my gosh, like I'm kind of scared. And I started crying because, I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen. You feel very out of control. And I was just like, what if this is it? What is it going to feel like? I've never had a natural birth before, never had a home birth before. So that's basically when they came, and I was like, it's happening. We texted family, like, we're in labor. Mm-hmm. But once everything started going on, a lot of women will tell you this, just the sheer shock of all these people, all this busyness, like sometimes your body will just stop being in labor. So that happened to me after I had gotten into the tub, and we're just like, yeah, we might have a baby tonight. And then my contractions just started slowing down. They didn't hurt as much, and I was just like floating in the tub and I fell asleep, and it just kind of stopped. So my midwife was just like, what would you like me to do? So for reference, I think it was around 6 or 7 p.m. we had told her to come. Around 8 or 9 maybe, we were all set up, and then everything stopped. So it's like late at night. It might have been like 10 or 11 by the time she was like, what would you like to do? And I was like, well, you can leave. She lived 10 minutes away. You can leave, and we'll let you basically know if it starts back up, if anything happens. So that's what happened, is she left. I think I got some sleep, but then the pain in my side was still there. And then I was like, let me use a heat pad and let me use this. And then it was just like, it was so intense that I just couldn't sleep through that, and I didn't know what that was. I still didn't know what that was. So then she came back at like 2 or 3 in the morning, I think, something like that. It's kind of blurry as I'm trying to explain it, but she came back like in the wee hours of the morning. We tried it again, and then I was just able to sleep in the tub. And then once I got out, that pain was just gone all of a sudden for no reason, and then at least it never came back. So after that, I think she was there the next day. So, Saturday, before November 10th, whatever that date was. Saturday is when we first started that night. So Sunday morning, it's now Sunday morning, and I'm like, maybe this is when the baby will be born. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, did they come back the next day, or they were there till the wee hours of the morning to see the sun come up, and then like, that was when she had another
Another.
assistant come, and they were having me do different things like, okay, stand in this position, lay in this position, and we're going to massage you, and like now hug the pillow, now do this with your legs. And it was just like kind of to kickstart labor again. And so they did that. I was feeling pretty intense contractions. And then I got back in the tub, and then it all stopped again. And we're just like, oh my gosh. So it stopped, and then my midwife was just kind of like, okay, I don't really know what's going on. And so she went to check me to see how far along I was, and then my water broke. And so we're just like, okay, now the water is broken, right?
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
that's when
the
that
water
happened.
broke on Sunday. And we're just like, now it's really going to happen. You know, water broke. They tell you that. And I think I was like 4 or 5 centimeters dilated. So I'm like, it's definitely today. Like every day I'm like, it's definitely today. So then it didn't. Like I said, it slowed down. Even though my water broke, nothing really picked up again. I just kept having gushes of my water come out, which I was just like, how can I not finish this labor? How can I not go into like delivering this baby? But I didn't. So then you will fast forward basically to the next day, because she was like, I can leave you. You can call me back whenever you feel like you need me to come. And like, this is what I advise you to do. This is what your choices are, which I loved having options. I didn't really feel like I got that at the hospital. We'll talk more about our decision to have a home birth later. But I didn't really feel like I had options at the hospital. But with the midwife, it's like, here are the things you can do. These are the things I recommend. But obviously, it's up to you.
Aww.
Oh,
baby.
He's like, you're telling my story. It's okay. All right. So we're going to feed him. It's okay. So yeah, having options was definitely very nice to have. A little overwhelming because it's just like, I don't know, I'm not the expert. Like, somebody tell me what to do. But then they're just like, it's your choice, basically. But if you want to do this or do that. So I was like, okay, you can leave and I'll basically tell you if anything happens. And she's like, well, this is what you would do. Take the necessary precautions, because there's that whole thing where once your water breaks, you know, you have like some hospitals, most hospitals will say you have 24 hours. Some places I think give you up to 36 hours. Because they're just like, all of a sudden your water breaks. If you don't have a baby within 24 hours, oh, you're going to get an infection, baby's going to get an infection, everybody's going to die. So she left some things with us, like a baby Doppler to continue to check his heartbeat, thermometer, and some other things, and told us what we should do basically to stay safe. But if it got to a certain point, like, what's our backup plan for the hospital? And that's something that she brought up, and that is something that they're serious about. The right type of midwife who does their job well is not going to put you in danger. They're going to say, this is what's going to happen to keep you alive, to keep the baby alive. So here's basically your window of opportunity to keep it natural, to keep it at home. But if it gets to a certain point or a certain situation arises, we are going to figure out, let's go to the hospital now. And that's just something I didn't want to do, because I'm like, why would the Lord tell me to have a home birth, get a midwife, do all of this, and then all of a sudden I'm in the hospital? Like, what's the point of that? Especially, like I said, because I feel like the Lord told us to do this. So anyways, Sunday goes by. Monday at 2 p.m. was like 24 hours after my water broke. We're just staying in touch with the midwife, letting her know what's going on, sending her video footage of like the Doppler and his heart rate, doing all the things that we need to do to stay safe and to stay protected. And then by the next day, so she came by on Monday. So Sunday, 2 p.m. my water broke. She had left hours after that.
Yeah.
The next day at 2 p.m. she came by. So yeah, she was there every day. So she came back and she was like, let's try castor oil. And I had heard this from friends, from strangers, where they're like, you take castor oil, that baby's out. You know, as long as you're full term, which I was, that baby's out. And I was just like, okay, well, let's try it. You know, at this point, this is day 3. Like, I'm willing to try it. So I took the castor oil, which was one of the nastiest things I've ever tasted. It was like drinking vegetable oil from the cabinet, which I don't even know what castor oil is. I haven't looked at it, but it's disgusting. So I just straight up took it in a spoon, because I tried it in a drink and it made me gag and almost throw up. So I was like, let me just try to take it straight. I almost did throw it up, but I was able to keep it down. After that, I had a bunch of diarrhea, which is basically what's going to happen to you. Most people say I had diarrhea like 3 or 4 times, I think. But no labor, no major contraction started by the end of the night. So I'm just like, okay, well, we'll see how long it takes for this to kick in. But basically by tomorrow, Tuesday, we got to make some decisions. So after having diarrhea all day, and then I just went to bed, I got some sleep, which was a little hard to do after your water breaks and you're still leaking and gushing fluid. That's a whole nother thing. But in the middle of the night, basically, I think 4 or 5, like the sun hadn't come up yet on Tuesday morning, but I started feeling some different types of contractions, which the other ones I could talk through, I could breathe through, I could walk through. And I was just basically like, when do I know, like, it's close? When do I know delivery is imminent? And my midwife was like, oh, you're going to know. Like, you're going to feel the difference. Those contractions are going to be different. So I'm just, like, waiting on these because I'd never felt them before since I had an epidural in the hospital. And so I'm just like, I don't know. A lot of women say it hurts more, but I don't know, like, how bad. So these contractions start, it's just, like, a really, really, really sharp pain in the bottom of your uterus. And I was just like, this feels very different. So we talked to her and we're basically like, please come now. So she did. And then I'm just like, I can't even talk through them. I can barely move through them. It was just like, oh my goodness, like this is worse than the period cramps I would get that were debilitating when I was a teenager. So she comes in and then we get the tub set up. We had to drain all the water from it because it had been dirty and get fresh water, warm water. So I got in the tub and then she checks me and she's like, you're not going to like what I'm about to say. And I was just like, oh my God, like what? And she's like, you're like 4 or 5 centimeters dilated. And I was just like, how in the world do I go this many days and I'm the same as I was basically 2 days ago when my water broke? Like, this is ridiculous. And she was just like, again, like, your backup plan, like, we're going to have to basically be serious about figuring this out. Like, who's going to come to watch Petra? And, like, we got to get something started. So I was just like, okay, just give me some time to think about it. So she's like, I did have another client once where they went from 4 or 5 centimeters to like pushing in a matter of an hour. So basically there's 2 people you can talk to. You can talk to God and you can talk to your son and just basically have a conversation with them and see what happens. And, you know, she's like, but it is possible that you could be pushing, you know, within an hour. So I'm crying and I'm just like, it's not fair. I don't want to go to the hospital. Like, oh my gosh. And then so we prayed, but we had been praying like, Lord, help him to come. But obviously he needs to come when the time is right for him. But let it be now. Let the right time be immediately. So I'm just crying. And then like I said, my contractions were so painful where I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't do this for a very long time. So then she had already told her assistants like to be on the way. But after she had checked me and seen how not dilated I was, she kind of told them like, wait a minute, hold off, like don't come yet. But then the sun had already come up. It was like 7 or 8 or something when she had checked me and we decided like we're going to wait an hour or 2 and just see what happens. So within about an hour, I was pushing and I was just like, oh my gosh, like it's happening. Like how is this happening so fast? Like when you are naturally giving birth, you know, like you can't not push. Like it's like you know when you have diarrhea and you can't stop it from happening and you're just like, oh, like I have diarrhea. It's that feeling where you just feel like you have to poop and you just start pushing, your body just starts pushing this child out and it literally feels like the kid is coming out of your butt and your butt is going to explode. Literally, it feels like that. Like my butt's just going to rip in half. I know that's graphic, but that's what it feels like. So there's that feeling. And then there's just all these people in the room, like her assistants had come by then once I started kind of pushing and being kind of out of control with like how I was screaming and asking for help and calling on Jesus and calling on God. Then I just look up and all of a sudden all these people are in the room. I'm like, I don't even know when they got there. But then I'm pushing and I feel his head coming out and she's helping me and making sure that I'm in the right position. It's okay. Making sure I'm in the right position to give birth and everything, which for me was leaning over the edge of the tub and being on my knees. So I'm pushing, and then I think maybe 10-15 minutes was when that
From the pushing,
From the
from the
push-
intense pushing, I think so.
yeah, so about 10-15 minutes of pushing, and I feel like it could have happened faster, but when you feel like if you push too hard you're going to rip in half, you kind of hold off a little bit. So like I'm pushing but like cautiously. So it took me like 10 or 15 minutes, and then they're like, "Go get Petra," cuz she was sleeping at that time in her room, and they're like, "Go get her, like now is the time." So everything's about to happen. So they get her, she comes in, she's just like hearing me screaming my head off, and then by the time the baby comes out, she's just like, oh my gosh, like I never seen like this happen. Like there's a whole baby like just came out of you. So
Yeah.
it was like cool to have her be a part of that experience. That's something I really wanted.
Yeah, Petra was the camera person with the phone to film it. I gave it to her, and she's like, "Okay, I'll just push record and film it when the baby comes." Gave her cues and did like a practice run. She was all set, ready to go. And then when the baby actually is coming out, and I'm holding the baby, I'm looking up to Petra to see, like, oh yeah, she's recording, and she's just like, so yeah, she was excited that she lost her mind.
Yeah. And then Jarrell did catch the baby. That's what they call it. Whoever is the first basically to grab the baby catches the baby. And that's something that I did want, was for him to catch the baby and be the first to hold him. I didn't want to be like, oh, I'm going to reach down and grab the baby and do anything. I was like, I want him to do it. And I'm glad that I did, because once I pushed the head out, then everything else just kind of like flew out too. So it's a good thing that Jarrell was ready to, because I was just like, once I pushed the baby out, I was just like, oh my gosh. And I just kind of like collapsed, like I'm so tired, like, and finally it's over, like what a relief. So it was just cool that he got to catch, but I don't even remember any of that. It's like there's a spot in my memory that is gone from when I pushed him out to actually when I held him. I think a few minutes had gone by between the point of him being ejected from my body to when I actually held him for the first time. So I didn't even know what happened. Everything was kind of a blur. But that's what you were able to do. And then I had to be sewn up because I did tear. I don't even remember how much, but I did tear, so I was being sewn up while Jarrell and Petra were with our son. And I don't even know how long that was, but you can talk about that. Like, how was that time from catching the baby to like he's here and I'm cutting the cord and
Oh yeah.
now we're with him.
So yeah, it's like a very different experience than at the hospital, for sure. The hospital, basically everything that we wanted to do, we couldn't do. Like our birth plan was out the window from the get-go. So we wanted to like let the umbilical stay pumping. They cut it, like, oh, we didn't know, or this nurse didn't hear, and like all the different things. And then they take the baby away, and all these different things that do happen at the hospital. So catching him under the water, it was kind of a strange feeling, like, oh, I feel limbs. This must be him. Okay, and pulling him up. And then we see him for the first time, and then the doctor, the midwife is cleaning out, like making sure his air passages and everything is fine, and stuff is out of his nose. And then I'm looking at him, and it's like he's finally here. So it's like a weird, like you anticipate a moment for so long, and you know the person is living inside there, but you don't really get to meet them. Even if you see like in an ultrasound or something, you see them finally what they look like and in real life, and you get to hear his voice and everything. So we took them over to the bed, and then we got a chance to cut I guess I got a chance to cut the umbilical. So they clamped it. Well, they didn't clamp it yet. They waited, and it pumped pretty quick, because I thought it would be like 30 minutes or something.
Yeah,
but
it was like within minutes.
yeah, it was
they
like
finished
less than
pumping.
5 minutes it was done. And then they clamped it, and then I cut it, and it had like a strange like texture, like a
You said it was like rubbery or
it,
something?
yeah, it was like a rubbery pasta or something. So then I cut it, and then they weighed him and stuff, and then we wrapped him up, and then me and Petra went, and we had time with him in the other room, and it was, I don't know, it's almost like surreal, because so much anticipation, and then you have, oh, it's another person, and they're here. And so we spent time with him in the other room, took some of the first pictures and everything with him. Did a little photo shoot where Petra held him for a couple minutes. And and that was just like a little time we had with him and welcoming him to the family kind of a thing. And then once they cleared us to come back, then he can finally like lay on you and be with you.
And nurse for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it felt like 20, 30 minutes. Was it that long? Like when I
Yeah.
was being stitched up?
Yeah, it was at least 20 minutes.
Yeah. So it was a lot. Then they weighed him and did the footprints and paperwork and all kinds of stuff. That was kind of a blur. I don't remember it. So by the end of everything going on, my midwife was leaving and so was her team. And they cleaned up like crazy fast.
Yeah.
Like I'm just looking up and I'm like, oh, the whole tub is gone. Like, oh, everything's back, where it's supposed to be. So by the time they were leaving, I think they were so relieved because it had taken so long. And even my midwife had said, like, this wasn't the labor I wanted for you. Like, I love your family and I really wanted it to be different. And I was just like, you know what? It is what it is. Like, whenever he's meant to come is when he was meant to come. God is in control and there's only so much that we can do. But she was just so sweet about it. And she was like, like you're in the top 1% of people who, go through this. Like a lot of people would give up. And she's had clients where they're just like at the tail end of everything. And they're just like, I got to go to the hospital. Like, I can't do this anymore. And I did have that moment, even though it was didn't make sense. It was so irrational and illogical. I remember he's coming out. His head is probably half out. And the pain was so bad that I was just like, I gotta go to the hospital. Like, I have to get out of here and I want them to cut this baby out of me. Like, I can't do this. And it's like, you're not getting in a car with a baby's head between your legs and going to the hospital. But I just felt like literally I cannot do this. Somebody's got to help me and get this baby out, pull him out, cut him out, whatever you got to do, just make it be done. And so I did ask people for help and I was like, just help me. Like somebody, like, why isn't anybody helping me? And they were just kind of like, you're the only one who can do this, but you can do this. And they were just so calm and so reassuring. By the time it was over, I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did it. And she was saying how a lot of people were praying for me. My midwife had texted some people and just like, keep this client in prayer. Like, this is what her labor's like. And, like, we just don't want to end up in an emergency situation. We don't want to have this, end up being something where you're just out of control once you go into the hospital doors and you're not able to do something you had planned for 9 months to do. So the reason we had planned to do a home birth is several years ago, we had watched a documentary called The Business of Being Born. I don't know if you've heard of it, but if you are someone who plans to have kids one day, just watch it. You don't have to ever do anything that they do. But there was just a lot that I learned about home birth. And I had not even really known home birth was a thing until one of my friends did it. And I was just like, you can have a baby in your house? Like, I never knew that. I thought everybody just goes to the hospital and that's usually what you hear. And that's usually what I had heard that I planned to do. And then once I watched that, I felt like the Lord was telling me to do that, even with my first pregnancy. But because of a lack of money and even a lack of faith, we pursued a little bit like with a birthing center. But once when we were pregnant with Petra, but once we saw the cost, we were just like, well, that's out the window. Bye. But even this time around, there was a point where we were just like, okay, you're telling us to go with a midwife. We had found somebody. We'd prayed about it. But even hearing the cost of what it would be out of pocket, which was $6,000, but we got a lower rate of $5,000 because some insurances will pay part of it. Ours wouldn't. So basically because of our insurance, she was like, okay, well, you're paying in cash, so it'll be $5,000. That's how much it costs. That was a question one of you guys asked me. But it varies, I think, depending on midwife to midwife. I don't think all of them charge like one rate. So we were just kind of like, okay, Lord, like, you're going to supply that, I bet, because I don't have that right now. But then he came through, in major ways this year financially, even with our debt and a lot of things being paid off. I know. We're talking so much. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
He's like, it costs what? To do what?
Yes, that's how much it costs. So the main reason why we chose it, like we said, more information we had found out about home birthing, and it seemed like something beneficial for our family to do. And then the fact that we felt the Lord convicting us to do a home birth, to do a natural birth. And I'm so glad that I listened. I'm so glad that I did it. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. But being on the other side of it, it's almost like I can't believe I did that. Like, oh my gosh, like we did that. That's major. What a huge accomplishment for us as people, for us as husband and wife, for us as a family, and just having like the right midwife and the right team. It was just beautiful. It was wonderful. And I'm not having any more kids. Like I kept telling people, I'm not doing this again. Like, I know we're having 2 biological kids. Check that off the list. And I know we'll be adopting in the future. That is, I don't know what age our kids will be, if they'll be a baby or not, but they're not coming out of me. And I'm so glad that that part is over. A lot of women, they'll be like, I got 5, 6 kids, and I love pregnancy and I love labor and delivery. I'm not that person. So I'm just glad that we did that. And the adjustment has been interesting with 2 kids. A lot of people say like, oh, having a kid is so hard. And then you add another kid, like it gets way harder. And it is hard to split the time and attention. I think that's been the hardest part for me, besides recovery, because recovery was rough. Yeah. I felt like the bottom half of my body had been run over by a truck. But a month later now, I'm feeling probably 95% fine. I can walk again, which is cool. But yeah, I think just the attention for each child, it's just like you go from Petra, 6 years of her life being the center of it all. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden you have a whole nother human, and you can't just be like, okay, well, I'll give him like 10% and we'll gradually move up. Like, he needs so much attention and effort. So I do feel bad for her in that sense, but then I'm also like, she has a whole, kid brother, and like, we're blessed, and she's fine. Like, she's gonna be fine. She doesn't need all the attention all the time her whole life. Like, it's fine.
And she loves him. She's been waiting to have a forever companion and best friend that's that close. So she it's like the pros and cons of it for her. She's adjusting well to it all.
Yeah. So the last thing I'll say before we close in prayer is I do have some maternity clothes that I will never wear again. And they're like size small, medium, and depending on, what the article of clothing is, like some dresses, some shirts, some shorts. If any of you out there are pregnant or know someone who needs some maternity clothes, email me at lamourinChrist@gmail.com and just let me know, and I'll randomly pick one of you. So only one person will get, these clothes. But if you want to be entered into, I guess, the raffle or the giveaway, you can go ahead and email me at lamourinChrist@gmail.com and just let me know you're interested. And that's it. I don't need you to tell me a whole story of why you deserve it or anything like that, because it's fine. Like, all of y'all probably deserve it. But email me, and then I'll pick somebody. I will pick them within a week of this video going up. So I don't know the date. I don't know the date of when this is going up, but I'll pick somebody within a week of this going up, contact you, get your address, and ship those out to you. So I would love to close in prayer before we end the video. So Lord, I just thank you so much for allowing us to share our story for people who are interested, because it's not just about birth and labor and delivery. It's about trusting you. It's about hearing your voice. It's about knowing your will. So I pray for those who, in any situation in their life, whether it's a spouse or a job opportunity, or just an important decision they need to make, I pray that you make it clear to those who are in the middle of deciding what to do about their special circumstances. Just praying that you speak to them in a very clear way, help them to know what to do and what your will is for their life, and that they'll continue to trust and have faith and hope in you for all areas of their life moving forward, and that this will inspire people, that this will help people, whoever this is meant for, that it'll just be a great seed planted in their spirit to do what it needs to do. And I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, you guys, that's it. If you want to support us, there's a few ways to do that, to keep this podcast going. You can donate. I have a PayPal, so you can send a secure donation through Kytia, paypal.me/Kytia Lamore. Thank you for those who have donated and sent special gifts even for our son, and went to our baby registry and sent us gifts. Like, it's just so beautiful and amazing and special that you would do that. You can also just give us a good rating or subscribe or comment or like. All those things work. Prayer is absolutely beneficial and necessary, so keep us in your prayers as we continue to transition with 2 children. And that's it. I don't have anything else to say. Do you?
No, I think that you covered a lot. You did a good. Was it Jorb?
I did a good job.
A jub.
Job.
You did a good job.
Okay. All right, you guys. We love you, and we'll talk to you soon. These podcasts might be a little more sporadic now, maybe every other week. And I'm feeling more like myself, so there might just be other random videos sprinkled in on my channel if I have something that the Lord puts on my heart to share. So that's that. Keep coming back for more. All right. I will talk to you later.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Make sure you get the subscribe button and hit it like a granola bar. Boom! When you eat it, and then give a big subscribe button. I don't know if I said that, but get a big thumbs up, and then boom! Right there, and get the notification button real hard and make it bigger than you ever seen, and hit it really hard so we can know, and bye.
Look behind you.
Oh my god. So this is how he looks. Bye.
You